Imagine this, you and your spouse have been planning this Alaska cruise for 3 years. You've saved, you've packed, and you're finally in your seats in row 12, waiting for the safety briefing to start. You're excited. You make a joke to the flight attendant as she passes by, a joke you've made 100 times at dinner parties. Suddenly, the airplane isn't moving. The gate agent comes back on board. She's not smiling. 2 minutes later, you are being escorted up the jet bridge by local law enforcement. Your luggage is pulled. Your vacation is over. You're not just missing the cruise, you're on the phone with a lawyer. And the worst part? You have no idea what you did wrong. This isn't a hypothetical story I read online. This is a scene I have witnessed firsthand more than once during my 12-year career as a lead flight attendant for a major U.S. carrier. In today's aviation environment, banned doesn't just mean you got scolded by the crew, it means federal investigation, 6-figure fines, and your name on a list that you cannot get off of. Today, I'm putting down the passenger manifest and having a galley talk with you. I'm Elena, a 12-year veteran flight attendant turned senior travel consultant for the 60-plus community. I'm going to tell you the exact 4 words that can destroy your travel future, words that many of us, especially those of us over 60, might use casually, but that today's aviation world views as a declaration of war. Let's be honest. Many of you watching this started flying when it was an event. I call it the carving station era. It was glamorous. The flight attendants were there primarily for your comfort, and the relationship between crew and passenger was one of casual service. Those days are over. In the post-9/11 world, that's no longer reality. When I stood at the front of that Boeing 757, I wasn't just there to serve you coffee. I was a federally mandated safety professional. My primary job was to evacuate that aircraft in 90 seconds or less if necessary. The crew on your next flight has been trained in terrorism response, medical emergencies, and unruly passenger management. We aren't waitstaff at 35,000 feet. We are the final line of defense. Because of this shift in our roles, the language we use has been streamlined into something highly regulated. Airlines, and by extension the FAA and the Department of Transportation, now use specific algorithms and protocols to determine risk. They cannot assess your intentions, they can only assess your words. In a cramped high-stress cabin, there is zero tolerance for nuance. If you use certain trigger words, the algorithm changes from service mode to threat mode. A single misspoken phrase can automatically trigger a mandatory protocol where the captain has to be notified, corporate security is called, and law enforcement is dispatched. The moment those words leave your mouth, the crew loses their discretion to let it slide. It is no longer up to them. It is a system-wide mandate. I've seen kind, excited grandparents deplaned because they didn't understand this shift in the aviation environment, and that breaks my heart. That's why we're doing this today. We must understand the rules of engagement have changed. The stakes are too high for you to get this wrong. People ask me why I hung up my uniform after 12 years to become a senior travel consultant. It's simple. 12 years is a long time to spend at 35,000 feet. I worked the red-eyes, the holiday rushes, and the complex international routes. I've handled medical emergencies over the Atlantic and managed crews of 15. I earned my silver wings, and I am proud of that service. But during those 12 years, especially toward the end, my role started feeling more like airborne security and less like travel advocacy. I love my passengers, but the system I worked within was becoming increasingly hostile towards them, especially my senior passengers. The airlines are designed for speed, efficiency, and a 22-year-old with a smartphone and no checked bags. They are not designed for a 75-year-old traveler who might move a little slower, need more clarity, and who values polite conversation over digital check-ins. I saw my senior travelers getting confused by digital boarding passes, frustrated by TSA changes, and sometimes getting into trouble simply because they spoke the language of a different generation. That's when I realized I needed to pivot. As a flight attendant, my job was to be reactive. If you got into trouble, I managed the crisis. But as a senior travel consultant, my job is proactive. I am now your shield. I am using my 12 years of insider knowledge, knowing exactly how the crew thinks, how the captain operates, and how the airline algorithms work to protect you from those crises. I'm not here to lecture you on etiquette. I am here to give you the specific practical tools to ensure you can travel without fear of the system. Think of me as your niece who is also a career pilot, someone who knows the unwritten rules and will tell you the honest truth. You've worked too hard for this travel chapter in your life to let a simple, avoidable miscommunication destroy it. I won't let that happen. Are we clear on the stakes? Good. Then it's time to move from the briefing to the cockpit. Let's look at the very first word you must strike from your vocabulary. Let's start with the big one. This is the word that, when spoken, changes the entire operational climate of an airport or an aircraft in a microsecond. But before I give you the word, let me set the scene. As seniors, we often deal with stress through humor. We make self-deprecating jokes about our memory, our mobility, or the sheer inconvenience of modern travel. At a dinner party, it's charming. At the TSA checkpoint or on an airplane, it is a catastrophic operational error. Here is the hidden industry secret the airlines hope you never find out. Flight attendants are not profiling you based on your outfits. We are profiling your words based on federal protocol. The moment we are on the clock, we are legally mandated safety officers, and the word that strips us of all discretion, humor, and empathy is the word bomb. And I'm going to include any security-related derivatives: hijack, gun, terrorist, or even a witty. Don't worry, it won't explode when referencing a laptop battery. Many of us over 60 grew up in a world where a joke was just a joke. We valued nuance. We valued context. But let me tell you about the world I worked in for 12 years. Post 9/11, the aviation industry operate on a zero-tolerance policy regarding safety threats. Airlines don't have a sense of humor department. They have a risk assessment department. When I was in training at our headquarters, we spent weeks on security protocols. I remember our federal trainers being very clear. We are not trained to be psychologists. We are trained to be reporters. The protocol is binary. If a threat-based word is heard, a set of gears begins to turn that the crew cannot stop. It doesn't matter if you are a sweet 75-year-old grandmother. If you say that word, the crew is legally obligated to assume you're a threat. If they ignore it, they have committed a federal offense. I remember a flight from Dallas to Las Vegas in 2012. We were in the middle of a very hectic boarding process. A charming older gentleman in first class was struggling to get his carry-on bag into the overhead bin. He looked at me, smiled, and said, "Careful, Elena, I've got a bomb in here." He laughed. The people around him laughed. I didn't laugh. My heart stopped. I had to look at this lovely man who was clearly joking and tell him, "Sir, I have to report that statement. Please remain in your seat." I walked to the cockpit. I told the captain. The captain notified the tower. The flight was grounded. We had to deplane 150 people. Local law enforcement arrived. The gentleman was removed from the aircraft and taken for questioning. His vacation was over. The joke ended his trip, cost the airline tens of thousands of dollars in delays and fuel, and resulted in a permanent no-fly notation on his federal aviation record. Let's look at the financial implication for a senior on a fixed income. When you say that word, you are triggering a massive financial crisis for yourself. First, you will almost certainly be deplaned and denied travel, meaning your non-refundable tickets are worthless. Second, you face massive civil penalties. The FAA can fine you up to $37,500 per violation for interfering with security. On top of that, the airline can sue you for the costs associated with the delay, fuel dump, and passenger reaccommodation. And finally, you will almost certainly be placed on the no-fly list, which is a private database shared among all major carriers. This means you aren't just banned from one airline. You are banned from all of them. Your travel insurance won't cover this. Your retirement savings shouldn't be spent on legal fees and FAA fines. When you are near an airport or on a plane, humor regarding security is not charming. It is a financial and legal liability. Never, ever, under any circumstances, use that word. The second word isn't really just a word, but rather a stance. It's the word no, especially when it follows a direct safety command. This is where I see my senior travelers get into trouble most frequently. As we age, we are accustomed to making our own decisions. We value our independence. We have spent 40 years running our own households or companies. We don't like being told what to do, especially by someone who looks younger than our own grandchildren. But here's the part the airlines hope you never find out about: how a crew actually thinks during a flight. When a flight attendant tells you to do something regarding safety, sit down, fasten your seatbelt, turn off your device. They aren't making a suggestion. Under federal law, specifically 49 U.S.C. Paragraph 46504, refusing to follow the instructions of a flight crew member is a federal offense defined as interference with a flight crew. This rule exists because of a very practical, history-based reason. In an aviation emergency, a fire, a sudden decompression, or a crash landing, seconds are the difference between life and death. The hierarchy on that plane must be absolute for everyone to survive. When a flight attendant gives a safety order, they are speaking for the captain. Hesitation is viewed not as independence, but as a risk to the integrity of the safety structure of the entire aircraft. I remember a flight to Florida in 2016. We were approaching our final destination. The captain had turned on the fasten seatbelt sign because he was expecting moderate to severe clear air turbulence, which means you cannot see it and it hits instantly. I was doing my final cabin check. I saw a gentleman, perhaps 70, in row 18, standing up, attempting to go to the lavatory. I walked to him, put my hand on his shoulder, which you must do during turbulence protocol, and said, "Sir, you must return to your seat immediately. The fasten seatbelt sign is on." He looked at me, completely calm, and said, "No, I have a prostate condition. My doctor said I have to move every hour, and I cannot wait." I had to make a decision. Federal law says I cannot use force. I also cannot let him stay standing, because if we hit turbulence, he becomes a physical projectile. If he flies in the air, he could break his own neck, or he could land on another passenger, causing them spinal injuries. My job isn't to be polite in that moment, it's to mitigate risk. I had to use my lead voice. I looked him in the eye and said, "Sir, your compliance is mandatory. If you do not sit down, the captain will be notified and you will be met by police upon arrival." His no didn't work. All it did was turn his bathroom break into a security incident. He sat down, very angry. We landed. He was escorted off the plane, and because I had to file a mandatory event report with the airline, he received a formal warning letter from corporate security. "I understand you may have physical needs that clash with aviation safety commands. Your knees hurt, you need to stretch, you have a medical condition that requires movement. However, when the pilot says, 'Flight attendants, take your seats,' that is not the moment to negotiate. A no to a safety command is seen as a hostile act by a federal safety officer. The safety implications for you are immense. If you are standing during turbulence, you can suffer a life-altering injury that your travel insurance may not cover because you are actively violating a crew order. Financially, you are risking a fine of up to $25,000 for interference. We will cover how to handle these needs respectfully in Chapter 7, but for now, understand this. When an order is given for your safety, your only verbal response should be, 'Yes, ma'am,' or 'Yes, sir.' 'No' can get you banned." This next sign is one of the most heartbreaking, because it often comes from a place of fear rather than malice. This is the phrase, "I'm sick, but don't tell the pilot," or "I'm feeling very unwell, but please, I just need to get to my destination." Airlines hate talking about communicable diseases, they hate talking about diversions. But here is the hidden truth about what happens the moment you tell a crew member that you are significantly unwell. Flight attendants are trained extensively in first aid, but we are not doctors. We don't have X-ray machines, lab equipment, or the ability to perform complex diagnostics at 35,000 feet. We have checklists and a medical kit, and we have the ability to call a ground-based medical service like MedLink, which is staffed by emergency room physicians who give us advice over the radio. The moment a passenger acknowledges severe illness like significant chest pain, extreme lethargy, a very high fever, or symptoms of a contagious disease, the entire priority of that flight shifts. Why? Because an in-flight medical emergency is one of the most dangerous and expensive events that can occur in aviation. Airlines don't want to divert. A diversion means dumping thousands of dollars of fuel, paying landing fees, potentially delaying or stranding 200 other people, and disrupting the entire flight schedule of the aircraft. Because the stakes are so high, the cruise protocol is conservative. We must assume the worst. If you're very sick, we must assume you are fit for a flight cleared by a doctor, not by your own desire to get to your cruise. When you ask us to not tell anyone, you are asking us to collude with you to jeopardize the safety of the entire flight, which is an immediate red flag that you are not, in fact, fit to fly. I remember a long-haul flight from London to Miami in 2018. We had a lovely woman, Margaret, who was traveling alone. She was 82. During our initial cabin service, I noticed she was incredibly pale and had a visible tremor in her hands. I asked if she was okay. She grabbed my arm, looked at me with genuine terror in her eyes, and whispered, "Elena, I'm sick, but don't tell the pilot. Please, don't say anything. If they take me off, I will be alone here. My son is in Miami. I must get to my son." That broke my heart. As a niece, I wanted to hug her, But as a lead flight attendant, I had to be a safety professional. If she fainted, if she was having a cardiovascular event, if she had a highly contagious condition, she was putting herself and the plane in danger. I couldn't not say anything. I had to notify the captain. He notified ground support. We had to perform a medical assessment while hovering over her with oxygen and a heart monitor for 7 hours. We didn't divert, but only because ground physicians determined she was stable. She was met by paramedics upon arrival in Miami, but by attempting to hide her illness, she turned what could have been a calm medical consult at the gate into a 7-hour high-altitude medical drama that stressed the entire crew and caused other passengers severe anxiety. This is where my senior travel planning advice becomes critical. I understand your fear. You don't want to be stuck in a foreign hospital. You don't want to miss your non-refundable cruise. But here's the part the airlines won't tell you. Attempting to travel while concealably ill is a catastrophic medical and financial risk. The safety implications are immense. If your condition deteriorates over the Atlantic, the best medical care you can get is me following a checklist while a doctor on the radio tells me what to do. Your chances of survival are lower than they are on the ground. Financially, you are gambling. If we have to divert for your undisclosed pre-existing medical condition, travel insurance policies often have clauses that deny your claim because you were knowingly unfit to fly. The airline can then attempt to recover the diversion cost, which ranges from $50,000 to $200,000 from you personally. Don't hide your illness. We will cover the correct way to handle this in Chapter 7, but never ask the crew to jeopardize your life and the flight crew by concealing a medical emergency. We have covered the big security threats, the command refusals, and the medical concealments. Those are the fast-track ways to get banned. But the fourth forbidden word, or rather, a category of words and actions, is the most insidious because it often comes from a place of perceived politeness. This is the boundary crossing. I'm talking about words like honey, sweetheart, dear, or any unsolicited physical touch like a pat on the arm or, heaven forbid, a hand on the waist as we pass by. Let's be honest with each other. For those of you over 60, using terms of endearment like honey or sweetheart was often seen as gentle and courteous when you were growing up. It was a way to establish a friendly rapport with service staff. But here's the hard truth that I had to navigate as a lead flight attendant for 12 years. The airplane is a modern corporate workplace, and federal aviation regulations do not include the rules of 1975. The generation currently staffing your flights, the generation that replaces me, views these terms quite differently. When you call a female flight attendant honey or a male flight attendant son, you are not being epigenetic. You are being perceived as diminishing. We are safety professionals. We are trained in intense federal academies. When we are uniform compliant, we are officers of the aircraft. Using terms of endearment is often viewed as a dismissal of our professional authority. But here's the part the airlines hope you never find out about: how corporate policies intersect with federal law. Most major airlines now have zero tolerance, respect in the workplace policies. If a crew member reports that they felt harassed, diminished, or physically touched in an unwanted manner by a passenger, the airline's corporate security will treat that report with extreme gravity. They don't have a "he was just a sweet old man" exception. They have a legal obligation to protect their employees from what they define as hostile work environments. I remember a flight in 2017. I was working the business class cabin. We had a lovely senior gentleman, a frequent flyer. I was passing down the aisle with the meal cart, my lead voice projected, announcing choices. As I passed this gentleman's row, I felt a hand on my waist, a firm, guiding touch, accompanied by the words, "Excuse me, sweetheart, can I get another napkin?" That gentleman didn't have a malicious bone in his body. In his mind, he was just guiding my attention politely. But in my mind, in that high-stress moment, my spatial awareness protocol was activated. A passenger had initiated physical contact without my consent. My safety training overrides my polite persona. I had to freeze the cart. I had to look him in the eye and say, "Sir, please do not touch me." The energy in that entire cabin shifted instantly. He was mortified, and I was shaken. Consultant advice. Let's look at the financial and safety implication. If that crew member decides to file a harassment report, you aren't just looking at being deplaned. Corporate security will interview witnesses. You could be facing civil penalties for creating a hostile environment, and you will almost certainly be placed on the permanent no-fly list of that airline and all its codeshare partners. Financially, you cannot risk your retirement savings on a harassment lawsuit because you used the wrong polite term. Your physical freedom to travel in your golden years depends on you respecting the professional boundaries of 2024, not 1970. Treat the crew with the same professional deference you would treat a doctor or a pilot. Use their name from their badge or simply Miss or Sir, but never, ever call them honey. We have spent the last 30 minutes talking about what not to say. It feels restrictive, I know. It can sometimes make flying feel like navigating a minefield, but as your senior travel consultant, my goal isn't to terrify you. It's to empower you. Once you understand the hidden industry secrets of crew psychology, you can use that knowledge to navigate the system perfectly. This is the golden ticket protocol. Your 12-year lead flight attendant niece is going to give you the exact scripts and commands that will make you the crew's favorite passenger, ensure you get exactly what you need with dignity, and keep you safe from federal algorithms. It all starts with the relationship you build the moment you board. Part 1. The pre-flight script preparation. For medical needs. Never say, "I'm sick," but don't tell the pilot. Instead, the moment you get to your seat, ring the call button. When the FA arrives, use this script. "Miss, I just want to make you aware, I have a pre-existing medical condition that sometimes requires me to use the bathroom frequently. Stretch my legs. Is there any part of the flight other than takeoff and landing where I absolutely must not move?" This reframes your medical need as a safety query. The FA will appreciate your proactive communication and will often give you special leeway. For anxiety comfort, never demand, "Give me more water," or "Move me." Use this script. "Sir, I get quite anxious about turbulence. Would you mind letting me know if the captain expects a rough flight? I will be the best passenger if I just know what's coming." This script converts you from a demand maker to a collaborator in the crew's workload. For cognitive help, never say, "I'm confused. This is so much." Use this script. "Miss, I find the digital announcements a little hard to follow. Could you please just let me know if my specific row needs to move?" This acknowledges your need with dignity without making it a crisis. Part 2. The 12-year flight attendant niece's master checklist. This is your operational command checklist. I want you to print this out or keep it on your phone and follow it every single time you fly. 1. The FAA Zero Tolerance Audit Pre-Boarding. Perform a cognitive check. Am I calm? Have I left the word bomb at the hotel? Am I prepared for modern structured communication? 2. The Command Compliance Review. Pre-boarding. If a young woman or man tells me to fasten your seatbelt, can I look them in the eye and say, "Yes, ma'am," or "Yes, sir," even if I'm frustrated? If the answer is no, I should not be flying. 3. The 24-hour medicine mandate. All critical, life-sustaining medication must be on your person, not in your carry-on, but in your pocket or a small purse. Why? If we have to leave the plane via emergency slides, your carry-on is left behind. If you lose your medicine during an evacuation, you could die. 4. The turbulent safe seating rule. If you are over 70, you always sit in an aisle seat. This gives you easy access to stand and stretch, and it prevents you from becoming a blocker if the people in the other seats have a medical event. Your safety is paramount. 5. The physical boundary pledge. I will use the crew's name badge or "Miss Sir." I will never initiate physical contact. If I need attention, I will use the call button or make eye contact and raise my hand. 6. The cognitive check-in. If I feel confused, overwhelmed, or disoriented by the terminal, I will go directly to an airline employee at a gate and use this command. "I am overwhelmed and need cognitive assistance. Please guide me." This triggers a mandatory passenger assistance protocol that keeps you safe and out of trouble. By using this master checklist and these specific golden scripts, you are no longer a passive traveler at the mercy of a harsh system. You are an active commander of your own safe journey. You get what you need without triggering an algorithm, and you earn the crew's respect. That is dignity in travel. We have navigated the entire flight plan today. We've looked at the history of the industry, the specific words that can get you banned, and the exact tools you can use to stay safe and respected. I know that learning the honest truth about modern flying can be overwhelming, especially when the travel you use to enjoy feels so far away. I want to be honest with you, to keep bringing you these updates weekly while I'm consulting with families across the country. I use advanced technology to share my 12 years of experience. It allows me to stay in the galley with you, even when I'm miles away, ensuring that this life-saving information is always polished, structured, and ready for your pre-flight briefing. Your golden years should be spent exploring the world, not navigating legal crises. 12 years at 35,000 feet taught me many things, but the most important thing I learned is that the most vital safety equipment on an airplane is a respectful relationship between the crew and the passenger. You have earned the right to see the world, and I am here to make sure you see it with dignity and peace of mind. I want to hear from you. Have you had a close call with a crew member? What words or phrases have you used that got you the best service? Share your stories in the comments below. I read every single one, and your story might just save a fellow senior traveler's life. And if you want more honest galley talk that empowers the 60+ community, hit that subscribe button. We are building the smartest crew in the skies. The unwritten rules of flying have changed, but our desire to explore never does. You now have the insider knowledge to navigate it all with safety and respect. Your adventure is just beginning. Let's fly right.